Welcome to Real Talk, Indiana's premier talk show on real estate investing, where we talk each week about investing your money right here in Central Indiana. The tips, tricks, do's, and don'ts, brought to you by CIREIA, Central Indiana's oldest and largest real estate investing association. Hello there. My name is Vicki Perry, and I'm the Executive Director of CIREIA. We have over 600 members, all active in or learning how to be active in real estate here in the Indiana market. This radio show is available on FM 95.9, AM 950, podcast on YouTube, and www.cireia.org. Join us each week as we talk about how you can make your money more active with better returns and help the community that you live in with real estate done the right way. Now, on with the show.
And welcome. My name is Ron Watson. I'm the board president for CIREIA, Central Indiana Real Estate Investors Association. This is CIREIA's weekly show where we talk about investing in real estate the right way. Our show will help you finally get started real estate investing by presenting you with the practical information you need to be successful. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just learning, we'll help you get to the next level and find the path that's right for you. Joining us again today is one of the most successful rehabbers in Central Indiana, Dave Short, who is a broker, investor, co-owner of Perfect Launch Mentoring and Coach Extraordinaire. Welcome, Dave.
Great. It's great to be here, and it's great to put this gal on the hot
I know,
seat.
exactly.
She didn't want to be here.
Well, last week we talked to Janet Hawker and Eric Downing with Hawker Title, a division of Hawker and Associates Law. If you missed that episode, you can listen to it on the CIREIA channel on YouTube or tune into it on our website, www.cireia.org, on the calendar of events. So, yes, today Dave mentioned that joining us is Vicki Perry, Executive Director of CIREIA, and I thought we'd just go hot seat the whole time this segment.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. She's also the marketing chair on the board of directors for the new Indiana State REIA, which she's going to talk to us about in just a minute. So welcome, Vicki.
Thank you. Good to be here, I think.
Yeah, you have no idea what you're in for, but we're going to get started right away. Tell us a little bit about CIREIA, since that's kind of my baby, and yours as well, and you've been so instrumental in getting us from 0 to 100. So a little bit about CIREIA, if you would.
Well, we are awesome. CIREIA is the oldest and the largest nonprofit real estate investment group in the state. We just hit 30 years old, in fact, and our whole goal is to help people who are investors, real estate investors, or who want to be real estate investors, find the right path to do it, whether that means through networking and meeting the right people. And I talk about Dave Short all the time. He's the guy I want to grow up to be. And so it's networking, it's education, it's knowing what's happening with local legislation. It's just all the things that you need to do and know in order to be successful in what we do.
So when we brought you on, I know you've had a lot of real estate experience. So can you talk a little bit about your background and how you got started in real estate and what you've been doing in investing?
Sure. My business, or my real estate business, got started by accident. Back years and years and years ago. We bought a house, we fixed it up, and then my husband got transferred, and we had to sell it quickly, and we made a ton of money. And a light bulb went off, and I thought, holy cow, this is fun. And that's just what launched it. And that was in 1981, I think, was the first time I did a flip. And we did a lot of our flips the vagabond way, where you move into the house, you fix it up, and then you sell it. And my kids have lived in probably 25 different houses, and we never had them change school systems, but it was a good way for us to do rehabbing and flipping of houses, and that's just kind of what we started. Then when we moved to Florida, we actually did real flips, where we would buy something that needed work, and we would rehab it and sell it, and that went really well until 2008 and 2010.
That happened to a lot of us. Why do you think our membership, and I'll make a plug for Vicki, our membership has grown so much in the last 2.5 years, and why has that happened?
because if you look at all the places in the United States that you can invest in real estate, Indianapolis and the general central Indiana area is one of the most consistent. Back in 2010, when I was in Southwest Florida and the market tanked, it was horrible. Most of us lost everything. But it didn't seem to affect this market the way it did then. We have people coming here from all over the world who are investing because our market is fairly stable compared to other big markets. We're also listed on just about every list you can be listed on for great places to live or good places to go for conventions. We're on all the food lists. I mean, Indianapolis just is awesome. When my husband passed away, I could have moved anywhere, and I chose to move back to Indiana. And some of those reasons are why.
Would you concur that one of the things I like about Indianapolis, I mean, we've looked at other areas to go and flip houses just because, but we come to Indianapolis, it seems like every strategy in real estate works in Indianapolis.
Oh, totally. And that's what's so wonderful about CIREIA. Maybe 5 years ago, the emphasis was on either being a landlord or rehabbing and flipping houses. Now we follow the market. We have short-term rentals like Airbnb, and we have a subgroup for that. We have notes. We have, lease options, creative finance. Every type, turnkey, every type of investment strategy that's out there, you have the opportunity to do here in Indianapolis and this market, or I should say, and in addition to that, you can learn about it by coming to CIREIA.
I mean, I can tell you a quick story. I met with an investor yesterday, and he turned 2 of his Fountain Square properties into Airbnb 2.5 weeks ago. And when he put them on the site, he has $22,000 worth of bookings in 2 weeks for the next 12 months.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and that's something that people hadn't thought about 5 years ago, right? I mean, it's a whole new way of getting involved in real estate investing. For some of the people that are listening, can you talk about the type of people that come to a meeting with CIREIA and the type of people that are members?
Sure. We have every type, every walk of life. We have attorneys. We have people who have been working the line. We have everyone. Of our members, and we're over 600 members now. Actually, we're over 700, but I don't want to jinx it. A third of our members are traditional people like you, Dave, like you, Ron. People who flip houses the traditional way, and or you've been a landlord. Then a third of our people are more creative people. They are the people who are wholesalers. They do lease options, subject tos. They do the notes. And then a third of our people are brand new. They've never done a deal. Some of our people get right out of college and they come and they want to learn. And so they've never even owned a house. Some of them don't even know what escrow is. And we have groups, small learning opportunities for people to learn all those things. So we have every kind of person and level that you would want.
So Dave, I think she basically said we're not creative, but besides that, that's why you're on the hot seat the whole show here. But I know a lot of people probably are intimidated about coming to a meeting where they may perceive that there's really experienced investors and they don't know much about it. I mean, how should that be something they worry about?
Well, yeah, most people are intimidated by walking into a meeting where you know no one. We understand that, and we all started somewhere. I'm an ex-school teacher. I've been flipping houses, well, as you heard earlier, for a very long time. And we try to make our meetings welcoming. So when you walk in, we have greeters. And those greeters, one of them will take you in to introduce you to some of the investors and some of the vendors so that you're not walking in cold. And when people call me in advance, I tell them, when you get there, ask for me. Let me introduce you to someone who is doing what you want to do or what you think you want to do. As you two both know, a lot of people come to our meetings or they come to CIREIA, they go to all these classes, they think they want to be a wholesaler or they think they want to flip houses. And then 6 months later, they find out they don't want to do either one of those things. And they want to go in a totally different direction. And we just try to help them figure that out.
Can you talk about some of the training options and the information available for people that want to learn more about the kind of direction they may want to go into?
Yes, I can, and but I could sit here for 2 hours and talk about all of the opportunities. Basically, CIREIA has a main meeting on the first Thursday of every month, and every one of those meetings has a speaker or a panel. Last month, or I should say the last meeting was last week, and we had 2 landlords who have been landlording forever. And that's an educational opportunity to listen to very successful, experienced investors. In addition to that, we have 10 small meetings that we call subgroups. One is on rehabbing. That's the one you teach, Dave. One is on how to set up a real estate business. One is on notes. One is on landlording, Airbnb. I teach a new member orientation where we go over all the benefits. There are tons of opportunities. My biggest frustration is that we have all these opportunities. People pay their money to join, and then they come to only the main meetings. They don't go to the small groups. The small one-on-ones is where they're going to get to meet people like you guys, where they can really learn.
So we only have about a minute left in this segment, but I know sometimes people fear that if they come to a meeting like this, are they going to be given a hard sell on something or have to spend a bunch of money? I mean, can you just address that kind of briefly for us?
First of all, if I thought they were going to get a hard sell on anything, we'd be upset. That's not how we do things. But 4 times a year, we do have national speakers come in, and those national speakers are selling the most updated strategies, the things that are working really well in other parts of the United States. And we are offering an opportunity to our members to hear them do their presentations. And then if they want to buy into their systems or their strategies, they can. That's only 4 times of the year. The other 8 months of the year are local investors and local experts.
So we have a lot more to cover with Vicki. I know she wants to talk about the new Indiana State REIA as well in just a minute. So we're going to get back to more questions with Vicki Perry right after this break. And welcome back to Real Talk. I am Ron Watson, president of the board of directors of CIREIA. And today we're joined by Vicki Perry, executive director of CIREIA, and also Dave Short. Also, she's the active marketing director of Indiana State REIA, which we'll talk about in just a minute as well. But, a lot of people wonder what kind of licenses they may need. Do they have to have a real estate license to get involved in real estate investing or to be a member of CIREIA?
Well, to be a member of CIREIA, there are not licenses required. We just ask that you have an interest. Most of the people who come to CIREIA come with someone else, whether it is a spouse that you want to be involved in this business with or a partner. It's more fun to do it together. The licensing is also not required to be a real estate investor in most of the categories. You can buy a house and flip it. You can buy a house and own it and landlord it without having to have a real estate license. However, if you are wanting to do some of those things for other people, for instance, if you want to manage properties for other people, there are some requirements where you may have to get a real estate license in the state of Indiana. I recommend getting a license for most of the strategies and most of the different types of investing because it's good. You go through intensive training, you learn what you can and can't do, you learn about fair housing, you are held accountable by the state licensing board, and I think that having a real estate license is a good thing for most people.
Talk to us about one of the things that CIREIA offers that I think is just really good for investors to have and be a part of it's called PHP.
Mm-hmm. Professional Housing Provider. It's a national program. It's actually a designation, not a certification or a license, and it requires 60 hours of classes in rehabbing, landlording, fair housing, finance, insurance, all the things that you really need to know about. In some areas, it hasn't been promoted heavily, so it's not well known. we're trying to get that to change here, and we're trying to promote it. Last year we had 15 people who got their PHP, and we hope to have more every year. In some markets, though, it's very well known. In Ohio, for instance, some of the judges will rely on local, local RIAs, and they will require PHP training for some of the landlords who go now. And again, I haven't gone through this, so this is third-party story, but I've heard that they require some of the landlords to go through some of the training for PHP because they are consistently not doing things the right way. I also have heard that when Katrina went through New Orleans, that some of the ways that certain contractors were picked was if they had a PHP. So there are certain neighborhoods and communities and areas where it really is recognized as a good thing.
And you really bring up a good point there, because I think, and maybe you could expand on this a little bit. We do work to encourage and promote professional investors, right? And so sometimes you hear negative stories about a landlord, for example, in the news. I mean, can you talk a little bit about the things that CIREIA does to make sure that the people that are members are operating in the most professional manner?
We have a code of ethics. And when a member comes on board, they are given a copy of that code of ethics, and we ask them to adhere to it. All of our vendor members are actually vetted. We check out their references, and we do a background check. So those are the steps that we can do easily and legitimately. If we find out that we have members who are not acting in ethical ways, we try to encourage them. For instance, Dave, I'm going to tell a story. We had a member who had overextended himself with a couple other members. And it wasn't that he wasn't going to get the job done. He just wasn't going to get it done in the timeliness that the other member needed it to happen. So when that person contacted me, I knew that it was in an area that you, Dave, like to work in. So I gave you a call and I said, help, what can you do? That's one of the wonderful things about CIREIA. When we need something, we know that there are people in the group who are willing to help other people. So you, Dave, sat down with the parties involved, and you worked it out with them. Do you want to add more to that? I'm trying to.
Well, it happens, and it's one of the things. We had a situation again, piggybacking on that, is that we had. Yesterday, one of the vendors called me and said, Dave, can you help this person? The flip that they've done is not to the standards that you do, and he really needs some guidance. So we looked at the house yesterday, and we'll probably have a meeting with him next week and just kind of walk through the house and say, hey, this is why your house isn't selling. We want to keep you in our business. There's some of the things you need to do. And it's a 5-minute conversation for me, and yet it might keep somebody flipping houses where the first flip is the hardest. The second's a little bit easier, the third's a little bit easier, but just staying in the business, doing it the right way, and we tried it through CIREIA to try to make that happen.
And that's an interesting point too, because I think people come into meetings and they may wonder, well, there's lots of competition here. Maybe I just can't do this, or maybe nobody will help me. I mean, can you talk a little bit about the type of people, as Dave kind of gave an example of that, but that we see in CIREIA and the willingness of people to help new people get involved and so forth?
You bet. When I moved back to Indiana 3 years ago, I went to several of the local meetups and the different RIA type of organizations to find out where did I want to get active. And I just didn't feel comfortable at anywhere other than CIREIA. And I wasn't involved yet. I knew I wanted to get back into flipping houses, but I wanted a place that when I walked in, I felt like they cared about me. So that is, a feeling that we want people to have. Now, can we do that every time? No, we can't. But we try. And I tell everyone new to take it slow. If you have questions, call me, call you, Ron, call Dave. Poor Dave. And the other leaders in our group, we have 10 subgroup leaders, and I am often sending people to call them because they're the people who are the new members, they're asking me questions that I don't have any expertise in. And so I'll say, call one of these guys, or like with Dave, because you're so darn busy, I'll say, you might do better, go to his subgroup, get to know him, and then ask him the questions. But it's a very helpful atmosphere. That's the whole name of the game for CIREIA.
So you mentioned a minute ago, too, about contractors and vendors. Can you talk about the opportunity for a business to join as a member of CIREIA?
Sure. Right now we have 51 businesses who are members, and these are people who want to do business with real estate investors. Not everyone does. We are not the easiest bunch of people to work with, because we have to buy a house knowing that we are going to buy it, do some improvement to it, and then either sell it or keep it. But we have a profit margin that we have to work on, and working with a budget. Not all realtors want to work with people like us. So these are realtors who do want to, property managers who do want to, insurance, contractors, attorneys. I can't even think of all the different kinds.
Well, I think we, as a participant in the group and, utilizing lots of services, we always look to the CIREIA vendor group first. One of the insurance members, I have 20 properties insured with him. The stager, I have five houses staged with the same stager who's a vendor member. I got a huge discount for using her because we were members of CIREIA. So.
Well, and we're going to talk more about that and some of the other benefits and information related to CIREIA in a minute. I know you're also, because you've got so much time on your hands, took on a role with the Indiana State REIA. And we want to talk a little bit about that. What's the difference between the Indiana State REIA and CIREIA? And we're going to delve into that right after this break. Well, welcome back to Real Talk. I'm Ron Watson, president of the board of directors of CIREIA. And today we're talking to Vicki Perry, the executive director for CIREIA, and an active member of the Indiana State REIA, which we're going to get into in just a second. Also joining us is Dave Short, rehabber here in Central Indiana for over 25 years. So, Vicki, tell us a little bit about Indiana State REIA. How is it different, and why are you involved with that now?
Because I had nothing else to
right,
do.
you're in your free time.
Indiana State REIA is, it's awesome. It is something that we've needed for a long time. Other people have tried to get a state organization going, but just couldn't seem to get it going. And we have people on the board from Merrillville, South Bend, Lebanon, Noblesville. I'm from Greenwood, Indianapolis. These are all people who are in our business. And a year ago, we were all at the OREA, which is the Ohio Real Estate Investors Association conference. And we got to talking about the things that are happening in Ohio and Michigan. And when I say things, I mean the legislation. And they're happening in states around us. And they are starting to happen here in Indiana. And what people who are in our business don't understand is if it's happening there, it's going to hit here sooner or later. And over the last year, we've started to see several of those things happen. For instance, in South Bend, this last year, they passed an ordinance that if you are a landlord, you have to pay the water and the sewer and any of the city bills. And then if you want to be reimbursed from your tenant, you can do that, but that's up to you. That way, the city doesn't have to be responsible for tracking down the renters. So it's just those kinds of things that have a big impact upon our people. So a year ago, several of us got together. We started working on a state organization that can be a voice for everyone from Gary to LaGrange all the way down to Evansville and Columbus, and we're getting there. We have our first big conference in May. It's May 19th and 20th. It is at Broadmoor, same place that we have the CIREIA meetings. We're going to keep it small this year because it's our first year, but we have people coming from all over the state, and we have speakers there talking about different strategies. We have someone coming in from the state who's going to talk about legislation for investors. We have Elizabeth Sickles, who is a transplant from Michigan, and she's going to talk about short-term housing or I should say short-term rentals and Airbnb. She's going to talk about why people love Indiana. So it's going to be 2 full days, but the main focus is going to be what's happening in the state of Indiana and what does that mean to our industry.
Do you have to be a member of the state RIA to come to that meeting, and how do you become a member as well?
Well, if you do not. If you are a member of CIREIA or Nicaea, which is the Merrillville, or the Elkhart Group or Columbus, those are the 4 RIAs who have actually paid to be founding members for the state RIA. And that means that if you are a member of CIREIA, you automatically are a member of the state RIA. And that's something that's very confusing to people. They don't understand that as a member of CIREIA, you're also a member of National RIA that has 50,000 members nationally. And then now they have state RIA. And each of those different organizations have different levels of benefits. For instance, with the National RIA, they can get discounts at Home Depot, at Office Depot, and Office Max. There are tons of other benefits. With the state level, or the state organization, I should say, we have partnered up with Think Realty, which is not the same as national, but it's similar. It's a national organization, and they have a whole different level of benefits. And for instance, they also have a wonderful coaching program. So as a member of CIREIA, you now have opportunities or you now have the ability to take advantage of those opportunities from both national and from state. Did that help?
Yes, it did. There's a lot of RIAs involved there, but I think everybody's getting the idea. One thing, I don't want to get back too off track with the state RIA, but to become a member of CIREIA, you just talk about the cost there, so the listeners can understand what's involved if they wanted to be a member of CIREIA.
Oh, okay. So to be a member of CIREIA, it's $185 a year for 2 people. And that other person can be your partner, your spouse. That gets you into the main meeting on the first Thursday of every month, as well as the 10 small meetings that we have, the subgroups. And that is ridiculously low. But the way we are able to keep our fees so low is we have those 4 paid speakers that come in every year. I mentioned that before. We bring them in not only to expose our members to the newest strategies, but the packages that they sell, they give us a rebate back to CIREIA, and that helps us to keep our fees down for our members. People have no idea how much it costs to run those to run an organization this size, and we do everything we can do to keep those fees low.
So the state RIA focus then will be more on public information on legislation and those kinds of issues. Is that right?
That's exactly right. It's more on legislation and public relations. 2 things that are going to happen after the May conference. We're going to start what we're calling a call to action funnel, so that if you are in Fort Wayne and you know that you need information, or that, let's just say that your local legislators are starting to do something that will impact your business, you'll be able to go to our call of action funnel, find out what they're doing in other communities with that same topic, and see what their legislation is, or how they are having an impact. We don't have all the bugs worked out of that one yet, but that's the first big project that we're going to take on. The purpose of the May conference is a fundraiser, so we'll have the money to invest into that system. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to do a statewide public relations program. When people ask me, what do you do? Now I can say I'm the director for CIREIA, but before I would say I flip houses. They really don't understand what it means to be, I shouldn't say not everyone, but a lot of people don't understand what it means to be a real estate investor. So they didn't understand what it meant when I said I flip houses. So, and then, as we mentioned before, we've had some not so wonderful landlords in the past, and there's still some out there, but we try not to let them get involved in CIREIA.
Well, talk about the, besides Elizabeth, I know she's top-notch. She was on our show a couple weeks ago. Talk about some of the other educational opportunities that's going to be at this.
In May?
In May.
I can't wait. We have Vina Jones-Cox coming. Vina is one of the strongest and most well thought of real estate investors in the United States, especially regionally. She owns a real estate company in Cincinnati. She runs the OREA. She runs the Cincinnati and the Columbus REIAs. She's just really, really knowledgeable. She is going to be teaching wholesaling and marketing. Wholesaling is one of the strategies in investing that people can get into fairly easily. It's not one that is perfect for everyone, but it is something that a lot of people do. That's one of our speakers. We have Joe Varnador coming, who is, he's from Florida. He's going to be teaching non-performing and performing notes. We were talking earlier about where are people finding properties. You know, we used to be able to get HUD houses. Well, now a lot of people are getting properties through non-performing notes. So he's going to teach people how to do that. We have Gene Garino coming, who is the top trainer in the nation for senior living opportunities and senior housing. Let's see, we have Matt Crawford, who's going to be there, and he's going to be talking about passive investing. Matt's a local guy, but several years ago, maybe, 6, 7, 8 years ago, he started a real estate-based equity fund. That fund allows him to basically crowdfund dollars to do a project. So that means that I can take my $5,000, put it into one of his funds that's actually run through a group of attorneys. Everything is done SEC approved, and I can watch what happens in that project. So that's just some of the speakers. I can't even think of everyone.
You seem to be quite excited about this, Vicki, so we're happy to see that. Hey, so I know with CIREIA we talked about the regular meetings that we have. Do you anticipate something similar with the state REIA? I know we have the thing coming up in May, the event. But beyond that, do you anticipate regular meetings with the Indiana State REIA that the public can be a part of, or what kind of communication do you anticipate for members?
Well, for people who are part of the associations who come on board, there will be quarterly newsletters where they can communicate. We have that funnel that I mentioned. We will not be having statewide meetings, probably. Nothing's in stone yet, but I'm guessing there won't be statewide meetings at least for a couple years while we get our feet on the ground. The communication is going to be primarily through the REIAs, through the associations who are members, and they will then relay that information to their members. If you don't belong to a local REIA, let's just say you live in Elkhart, or not Elkhart, but somewhere like Portland, Indiana, that doesn't have a REIA, you can become an at-large member. So you can still support the lobbying needs, the legislative information. You can still be participating in the state program, but you don't have to rely on being part of an association.
Is there a cost to come here to do this?
To be a member?
No, to come to this conference.
Yes, it's $119 for 2 days, 2 solid days per person, and then that's if you sign up with the early bird. I think it goes up to $129 after that.
So I know we want to dig into some more information about Indiana State REIA and CIREIA. And I know we've been trying to keep Vicki on the hot seat the whole time, but we've got that segment coming up next, too. And I also would like to get a tip from you that we typically do with all of our guests. And that will all be coming up right after this break. And welcome back to Real Talk. I'm Ron Watson, president of the board of directors of CIREIA, and today we're joined by Vicki Perry, the executive director for CIREIA, and also very active in the new Indiana State REIA. And also joining us is Dave Short, rehabber here in Central Indiana for almost a quarter of a century.
I bet it's over a quarter.
It's probably a little. It's probably a little over.
So let's kind of go back a little bit to CIREIA and talk about some. You mentioned some of the affiliations and associations and benefits related to CIREIA. One of them that came up was Think Realty. Can you talk a little bit about their relationship with CIREIA and what's the benefit to the members?
Okay. Well, Think Realty doesn't really have a direct relationship with CIREIA, but it is the national partner that the Indiana State REIA has partnered with. So if you walk into Barnes & Noble bookstore and you go to the magazine section for real estate, you're going to see a magazine that is sitting on the stands called Think Realty. That is geared toward investors. The gentleman who owns that company owns 21 other companies, including coaching and help for RIAs. And he's actually going to be at the conference in May and one of our speakers. And we're going to have a panel with the Think Realty people. They have discounts similar to but different than the ones that we get through National. So the advantage for CIREIA people are that they have the best of both worlds now. They can take advantage of the things that National RIA offers through CIREIA, which is our direct affiliation, or now that CIREIA is a member of the Indiana State RIA, they can take advantage of the Think benefits and opportunities as a member that way.
I mean, I would know. At the last meeting, we picked up a free Think magazine, Think Realty magazine, and it was unbelievable. Some of the articles they had in it that pertain to all different investors. It's typically, I look at those magazines, maybe there's one article in there I like, and there was 7 or 8 that I read. So it was great information, and it was free to CIREIA members.
It's a class act, and there are several of the RIAs in Indiana who already belong to National. The reason State wanted to go with someone different is because we want to give our members as many learning and networking opportunities as possible.
Oh, so you brought up the word networking. Let's talk about that just a minute. I mean, one of the things we do at the CIREIA meetings certainly is provide speakers and education, but a big part of what we do there is the networking component. Can you just talk a little bit about that? Well,
that's huge. We wouldn't be sitting at this table probably or possibly if it wasn't for networking, because you can't, and I shouldn't say can't, but it is difficult to get into a business as complicated with as many moving parts as our business is without understanding all of the different components. Well, there's no way you can know what you don't know until you start networking and talking to other people who are in the business. And, Ron, you've been a landlord for a long time. Dave, you've done some landlording, but most of yours has been flipping. I'm a flipper. I've done a little bit of landlording. So somebody could walk into a CIREIA meeting, and if they didn't know anyone, they could just talk to people like us very easily. And because of the nature of CIREIA, we want to help them, and we want to talk to them and give them tips. So networking, in my opinion, is everything.
And we always try to emphasize that at the meeting. We allow networking time before the main meeting starts and then after the main meeting is over, because it is really, really important to what we're trying to do. I wanted to also talk about some of the things that CIREIA is doing with respect to being involved in the community. And I know, Dave, you've got a project that you've been working on. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, my one of my pet projects is called Grit for Grace, and we had a house through our church donated, and we're coordinating the rehab and remodel of that house. And it's going to be used for a halfway house for trying to get women out of the sex slave trade business, and it's a big problem in cities like Indianapolis, and we're going to be able to create a $100,000 halfway house for hopefully a third of that money because of CIREIA volunteers and money's donated to our cause. We're having our second rehab day this coming Saturday, so there'll be a lot of volunteers getting to tear a house apart before we start to put it back together.
Is there ways people can reach you if they want to get involved in that?
Yeah, I can be reached at my cell number. It's just 317-590-4499, and my email is dshort@c21sheets. It's spelled SCHEETZ.com.
And also, Vicki, CIREIA has a relationship with an organization that I know you wanted to talk about in terms of community involvement.
Mm-hmm. Every year, CIREIA chooses an organization that we can help. Last year was Safe Indy. That is a neighborhood watch group that is manned by local off-duty policemen. So that was the organization that we sponsored and helped last year. This year, we have taken a different direction, and we are helping the Cool Bus. That is a veteran-owned and operated bus that has been refurbished as a small grocery store on wheels that goes around to the different food deserts. For those of you who don't know what a food desert is, Indianapolis, as is the case with all large cities, has has some neighborhoods that the people who live there don't have access to fresh produce and affordable food. So what the Cool Bus and the vets do is they go around to 23 of those neighborhoods, and they take the bus so that people can come and buy fresh produce off of the bus. And that's where the money goes back in. And so CIREIA, we helped them with a donation from the board of directors, approved it. And that's the other thing I forgot to mention. CIREIA is actually, we are a 501c6 nonprofit. So everything we do, it's the members, they're in charge. They elect a board of directors. That board of directors hired me. And then we all work as a great team.
Yeah, I think that's one of the interesting things about CIREIA is that, everybody wants to make money, but it's not just, in our group anyway, it's not just about that. I mean, there's that networking component, there's the community involvement. It's a nice, way to kind of enrich your life in ways that, you may not think about when you're just thinking about real estate investing.
Mm-hmm.
Can anybody just come to a CIREIA member meeting?
Yes, we stopped giving away free passes because we have gotten so large. Last week at the main meeting, we had 205 people there. That's typical. But if you're not a member and you want to come, then yes, you're welcome to come. There is a charge. And then if you join, you get that $20 back toward your membership fees. Our goal is to keep growing so we can keep helping people like the Cool Bus. We'd love to be able to pick up another community group. We would love to be able to expand everything, because what happens is so many people find these big national gurus that come to town, they give away the free seminar the first day, and then they get them into a program for $1,500 or maybe $3,000 or maybe even up to $30,000. Those may be great programs, but then the people don't know what to do. They don't know how to get started. And so that's where CIREIA really comes in. And our goal is to have lots of different opportunities for them as well as everyone else to get started.
So we have a couple minutes left. And before we get to your tip of the week, I wanted to do you have a quick story about maybe a success or a failure or something that was crazy or interesting at one of our meetings that you want to share?
Well, at our meetings, I'm kind of like the man in charge, and anything that can go wrong at a Thursday meeting will. We have 200 people there who are coming in, and they are coming there for, 3 hours maybe? Yeah, 3 hours?
Yeah, 3 hours.
And so things do go wrong. We either don't have batteries for backup batteries or for the microphones, or we had a speaker come in one time and he had forgotten about the time change, even though his assistant had been reminded, he had forgotten. So, those are just some of the crazy things that can happen.
Well, that's not incredibly crazy, but that's there's always something going wrong, but it's mostly fun. It's mostly we have cookies, we have snacks, and it's a great environment.
We even get Twinkies.
We had Twinkies one time, unbelievably free to all the guests that showed up. Dave, I want to make sure you give your contact information one more time before we close today. Okay,
Dave Short, 317-590-4499, or my email is dshort@c21sheets, SCHEETZ, and get me, and we will get back to you.
Thank you, Dave, and thanks again for joining us. Do you have a tip of the week for our listeners, Vicki?
My tip is to go slow. We all have been beginners, and it's wonderful to watch all the TV shows. They're fun. They get us pumped up, and we think, oh my gosh, they make it look so easy. This is not an easy business. It's a rewarding business, and it can be a profitable business, but it is not easy. So when you come to CIREIA, go to the subgroups, learn. Go to the podcasts that are all over the internet, and just take it slow. Don't jump into the first deal that you think looks good.
That's really good advice, Vicki. Thank you very much for joining us. And we'll see you again at the next CIREIA meeting.
Thank you.
This week at CIREIA, we have Tom Zeeb from Washington, D.C. speaking to us on Thursday and all day Saturday. Tom is a national speaker who has been featured on multiple TV shows and in national publications. He teaches wholesaling in a box for people who want to get started in investing with minimal funds. You can find more about Tom's presentations on our website. Just go to the calendar of events and click on May 3rd and 5th. Also, if you want to find out what's happening in other parts of Indiana, as well as learn about different investing strategies, you should plan to attend the May 19th and 20th Indiana State REIA conference that Vicki just mentioned, and that's also at the Broadmoor Country Club, which is Kessler and Michigan Road. For more about our group and events we're involved with, go to www.cireia.org. Thanks again, Vicki and Dave, and thank you for listening, and we will see you again next week.